Rosh Chodesh Kislev was a big day. Every year we made a fabrengen. I'm talking when I was a kid. And every year we tell the whole story. Just like Yotis Kislev, we tell the story. Rosh Chodesh Kislev, we tell the whole story of how the Rebbe got ill. It starts from Chayel before. There's all kinds of details to the story that are really, as they say in English, hair-raising. Significant details of the story. Every time the story, we made a fabrengen. In 770, they made a big fabrengen. They used to serve food, and we would wash, and we would eat, and we would fabreng all night. Chodesh Kislev was a special night. And once the Kinnas HaShluchim started, it became especially special. Why? Because downstairs was a fabrengen for everybody, and the Shluchim would join. In those days, there were not 5,000 Shluchim at the Kinnas. There were 50 Shluchim at the Kinnas, or 40 Shluchim. The Kinnas HaShluchim used to be much smaller. And I, as a boy, as a teenager, would look for where the shluchim were fabrenging, and I'd sit down and keep my mouth shut, or at least try to keep my mouth shut, and listen to shluchim fabreng. It was a much smaller pool of shluchim, but they would sit in 770. Now you can't fit the shluchim to 770, even like sardines. But then there were not that many shluchim came to the kinnis. The kinnis was small in my years in yeshiva. It got bigger over time. And every year, Chodesh Kislev was the fabrenging for the Rebbe's health, and the shluchim would come and so on. Over the years, it became bigger. I'll tell you one little story. You can see the videos of it. It's very special. 1988, Tafshin Memches was the 10th anniversary of Rosh Chodesh Kislev. And I want to remind you that Rebbe was still alive. The Rebbe passed away 2 months later. The Rebbe fabrenged Shabbos, the Shabbos of the Kinnis. And I don't even know how it happened. The fabrengen went late. So when the fabrengen would go late in the winter time, they would have a minche. It was already night. Most Jews already made Havdalah. They would have a minche. And then would daven Ma'ariv, and then someone would make Havdalah, and the Rebbe would walk out of the shul. Motzei Shabbos, the Rebbe fabrengt. Shabbos Tavshin Memches, 1988, fabrengt. But the fabrengen went late, so they would daven Minche, right away daven Ma'ariv, so made Havdalah, and the Rebbe walked out. When the Rebbe walked out after Shabbos, we were singing the Nigun of Chodesh Kislev. And then the Rebbe walked out, and nobody moved, nobody went home. Everybody got up on the benches, the whole shul. And we just sang. Everybody. We just sang. There's a video of it. It was spontaneous. It wasn't a planned spontaneous. It was real spontaneous. Nobody planned it. It's just no one was in a rush to leave. We were so happy. It was 10 years since the Rebbe's heart attack. And the Rebbe was back with a vengeance. I mean, the Rebbe was stronger than ever. And there was such a feeling of gratitude and joy. And I'll never forget that much. There's videos. One by one, people get up on the benches, the whole shul, from the front to the back, was standing on the benches, holding hands and just singing. I don't know how it ended. We just sang and sang and sang. It was such a special moment. You were so happy to be a Lubavitcher. It was a very special moment. It really was. But it's all these years later, we're celebrating the Rebbe's health. Now, after Gimel Tammuz, now it's how many years? It's more than 30 years. It's funny. But it's not funny. Because the Chodesh Kislev celebrates something much more than the Rebbe living. The Rebbe is still alive. I want everybody to notice. The Rebbe is more alive than we are. If I'm alive, I'm not sure. If the Rebbe is alive, there's 1,000 proofs. There's 5,000 proofs that the Rebbe is alive. I don't want you to misunderstand. But it is hard. It is halamas v'estadim. It is black. We can't see the Rebbe. It's a big deal. It's a serious deal. For you, it's your whole life. It's all you know. We're celebrating the Chodesh Kislev, not that the Hashem gave the Rebbe a few more years. No. That the Hashem guaranteed that the Rebbe's life would never end. The Rebbe's life goes on and on and on and on. That's the celebration of Chodesh Kislev. In other words, it's not just that the Rebbe was ill and he recovered. Something happened at Chodesh Kislev that makes the Rebbe's idea a permanent idea. So we have these 2 days in Kislev every year that we celebrate the Rebbe. Rosh Chodesh Kislev, we celebrate the Rebbe's health. And Chamish Asav Kislev, Tezvav Kislev, we celebrate the Rebbe's marrying the daughter of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So I want to tell you something. In Tafshin and Beis, that's 33 years ago. Yeah, I got married 35 years ago, 33 years ago. The Rebbe spoke of Fabreng. I was there, I was already married, I had a baby already at that point. That Shabbos, the Rebbe's Fabrengen, there's 2 edited sichos. The Fabrengen was wow. I remember the Fabrengen, it was crazy. The Rebbe said things that he never said before. Really. The Rebbe said, Shabbos Pashas told us, Tafshin Nun Beis, 33 years ago, this Shabbos, the Rebbe revealed things in Chassidus that he never said before, Mamish. And he made him seem so simple, like no big deal. I remember the Rebbe saying it. I probably remembered, I can hear the Rebbe saying those words. But one of the things that the Rebbe spoke about was the question of how do we understand Mashiach? And he asked the question, Is Mashiach connected to the 15th day of the month? Or is Mashiach connected to the first day? The same question I asked you. What is a greater, when you say 14 generations from the Amaral Miprag till the Rebbe, and the 15th generation is Mashiach, and of course we all believe the Rebbe is Mashiach, but is it from the 1st to the 15th, or from the 15th to the 1st? That's the question I asked you. So the Rebbe in that Fabrengen asked a different question. Is Mashiach connected to a full moon? In other words, Mashiach coming when the moon is full, like Shlomo HaMelech and David HaMelech were kings when the moon is full, or is Mashiach connected to the birth of a new moon? That was the Rebbe's question. And the Rebbe answered the question from his kapitel. In Tov and Beis, in Kislev, we were saying kapitel Peites. Kapitel Peites talks about Mashiach. And one of the things you have in that kapitel is Matzasi David Avdi Mishem and Kochi V'Shachta. The Gemara says, the Pasuk says, that Mashiach is a Metziah. Mashiach is found. Mashiach is discovered. And I don't know if you people know this, but that according to the Gemara, Mashiach shouldn't be able to be born. Do you know that the Gemara says that David HaMelech was supposed to die in childbirth? David HaMelech is called the Bad Nafli. He's supposed to die in childbirth. Why? So the explanation, which is brought in Chassidus from the Gemara, is because David is Malchus, and Malchus is Bittel. If you don't understand those words, don't worry about it. And Bittel has no Metzias. So that's why David HaMelech has to get years from other people. They get years from Adam Rishon, they get years from Avraham Avinu, from Yankov Avinu, from Yosef HaTzadik. Right? He doesn't have his own years. So if David is a Bar Nafle, Mashiach, who's even deeper than David HaMelech, is for sure. Mashiach is not supposed to be able to be born. That's why you find in the Chazal the idea of Chevle Mashiach. The birth of Mashiach is connected with terrible, terrible, terrible pain. And it's compared to a woman who has to have a baby, and the baby is not coming out. You know, there's a Maimonic Chassidus that explain the Chevle Mashiach as a woman having a difficult time delivering a baby. She has pain, and she has to make a nest that the baby should be able to be born. I'm not going into the particulars, but there's Magans and Maimonic Chassidus, the Mittel Rebbe and Sha'arei Emunah, talks about this idea at length. The Mashiach should not be able to be born. It makes a special nest how he's born at Gansamais. And the Rebbe said, the Friedrich Rebbe said that the Chevle Mashiach was the Holocaust. The birth pangs that allowed the Mashiach's neshama to come into the world was the Second World War, which is 80 years ago. It ends 85 years. This year is going to end. So now what's going on? Where's Mashiach? If the Holocaust is Chevle Mashiach, what's now? Something else, right? We're still waiting, but it's something else. It's not Chevle Mashiach. It's not Chevle Mashiach. It's something other than Chevle Mashiach. But the birth of Mashiach is a big deal. So the Lashon, which is used in the Pasuk to speak about the birth of Mashiach, is a Metziah. You know the meaning of the word Metziah? What's a Metziah? How you go to the store, you find a bargain. I got a Metziah. Right? What's a Metziah? You walk in the street and you see a wallet. And you pick it up and the wallet is full of money. Right? So what do you look for next after you find the money in the wallet? What do you look for next? Credit cards, ID. And what do you hope? You hope that there's no credit cards, right? And you hope that there's no ID. Why? Because then you keep the money. Now, if there's a name in the wallet, you have to return it. Although halachically, right? You want to see who it belongs to. What happens if you find a wallet and you open it up, it's full of money and there's no ID? None, zero. Halachically, you don't even have to call it out. You can keep it. You don't have to say who lost it. You can keep it. Now, of course, a person is going to anyways announce it. But halachically, if you find money, there's all kinds of bases for the fact that if you find money in the street, the guy who lost it already knows about it, and he already gave up hope of ever finding it, and therefore you're not considered yishil. But that you can keep it. That's what a Metziah is. Metziah means you find something you're not expecting. Mashiach is called a Metziah. The birth of Mashiach is a surprise. You never expected him to come. Oh, he's here. Boom. You know the story with the Rebbe? It's a cute little story, but it's a worthwhile story to tell. And I'm going to give you an introduction because I love to talk about this, girls. I like to share with you things that you're never going to hear from anybody else, okay? I grew up in Crown Heights. I spent most of my childhood in Crown Heights, half of my adult, but whatever, I was here a lot, okay? And we hung out in 770. I hung out in 770 as a kid. I want you girls to know this. The doors in 770 were never locked, never. The elevator wasn't locked. Our favorite game was to go up and on the elevator. And we didn't know that the old lady on the third floor was the Friedrich Rebbe's oldest daughter, and our favorite game was to go up in the middle of the night, middle of Fabrengen, to the third floor, and she would scream at us, and we would say boo, and it was our big pleasure We were troublemakers. I wasn't the worst, trust me, but the kids had a good time. The elevator didn't break as a nest because the kids ran up down the elevator like it was going out of style. The only door in 770 was locked was the Rebbe's room. The Weibishul was open. We used to run around all over. So the little room outside the Rebbe's room, which we now call Gan Eden and Tachten, plus the steps going up to the Frierdiker Rebbe's apartment. It was open. You ran up the steps. You can go up all the way to the top floor. Nothing was locked. The Frierdiker Rebbe's apartment was locked. But the hallways, we ran around. So when we were kids, we used to play in the room outside the Rebbe's door. That's all the time. We used to play catch. There's 2 staircases. You girls don't know the upstairs. There's a staircase that you go up in the middle of the hall, and there's a staircase behind the Rebbe's room, and it's a full circle. We used to run around. The doors were never locked. Something happened in the 1980s. Some Meshuggah called the police to get the Rebbe arrested. A Pashat Meshuggah called the cops on the Rebbe repeated a crime, and the cops came. And the guy waited for them, and he went to knock on the Rebbe's door to take the Rebbe away in chains. When the secretaries realized what's going on, it's time to lock the door. So they locked the door near the Rebbe's room. The Rebbe's secretary's door was also never locked. Now it's always locked. Then later on there was a buzzer, but we used to walk into the maskiros. The maskiros was never locked. All the doors were open. And I think the Rebbe wanted it that way. If the Rebbe would have his way, his door would also be open. We felt like 770 was our home. So people used to play in the room outside the Rebbe's door, and you would forget that the Rebbe can hear everything you're saying. He's literally outside the Rebbe's door. So there's a story that they tell of a few Chassidim standing in that room talking about how Mashiach is going to come. What's it going to look like? How Mashiach is going to come? What's it going to happen? What's it going to come with a parachute? He's going to come on a wing? How's he going to come? And suddenly the door opens, and the Rebbe steps out, and he says, Punkt azoi, just like this. You open the door and walk just like this. So a second before you're not going to see him, and a second after, there he is. The Rebbe did it. He opened up his door, he heard the conversation, and they were discussing how's Mashiach going to come, and the Rebbe opened the door and says, just like this. Boom, a second before you don't see him, a second after the Metziah is here. So the Rebbe spoke of Mashiach being like the Metziah. You find him. So since Mashiach has to do with birth, a difficult birth, and a Metziah, so the Rebbe said that the birth of Mashiach is the first generation, not the 15th generation. So you have to say that the Maharal Miprag is a full moon, and all the Rabbeim are the end of the month when the moon is getting smaller and smaller. When you have Chanukah, which is the Yom Tov of Mesiras Nefesh, and a smaller moon means Hashem is helping you less and less. The less Hashem helps you, the more you have to bring out the koiches from inside yourself. That's tshuva. That's Chassidus. And Mashiach is the new moon. The birth of the new moon. So Chodesh Kislev is a Chassidish Chodesh, and there's a bunch of Yom Tovs, a bunch of Chassidish days. But our Rebbe is connected to the full moon and to the first day of the month. The full moon means when the Chassidus is the richest, and the first day of the month means when the new moon is born, which is the day of the birth of Mashiach Tzidkenu, the latest Mashiach Tzidkenu.